Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. We have a fascinating discussion during the first hour. We're going to be talking about breakfast. Are we missing something about breakfast? Later in the show, we're going to be joined by a professor from Madrid that has published a study on what may end up being the microdosing of the future. You're going to love this. Before we get started, of course, I have to thank our title sponsor, and that's none other than Legendary Foods. shrnetwork.biz/legendary is the URL. SHR10 is the code. They have two new tasty pastries, hot fudge and blueberry, that have 15 grams of protein, not loaded with a ton of fiber, which I love, and 0 sugar. And it is gluten-free. Your kids will love it. You will love it. And if you use the code SHR10 and go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary, you will thank me later. And now I'm going to bring my guest on today. This first hour of the show is dedicated to my nephew, Timmy Profumo, because Timmy and I actually just had this discussion in the car. Because he's 18 years old. He's staying up all night long, and then he doesn't feel hungry. And then he's not eating until late in the day, and his clock is all whacked out. Adam Rothfelder is joining us. This is something that he has been vocally discussing, and he even wrote a book about it. We're going to talk about that. And that is the idea that the breakfast, especially in the climate of intermittent fasting, has become like a demonized, right? And so let's talk about something, first of all. Adam, you wrote a book about this. Talk about the brief book, and then we'll get into the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in Breaking Fast, it's a short book. I mean, the goal behind it was to explain the history of breakfast and where it came from, all the way dating back to, proof of breakfast being consumed by Otzi, that, 10,000-year-old man they found in the Swiss Alps, and they found remnants of like a bowl that he would use to mash like a grain, like almost like an oatmeal, and make these like porridge like pancakes on a hot stone. So we have been using breakfast for a really long time, and when in the last in the last 200 years, agriculture, and then you come into breakfast cereals and breakfast drinks and Carnation instant breakfast and Starbucks loaded with all these undigestible chemical induced bullshit foods, that has become synonymous with what breakfast is. But breakfast in fact is not a meal, it's an action. Right? You are breaking fast, and ultimately what that does is so much more than set you up nutritionally for the day. It sets you up for a better night's sleep. And so many of us struggle with our health because our sleep is impacted.
Yes.
Because we're not eating earlier enough in the day. We're not, we're working out too late in the day. We're consuming coffee too late in the day. And look, like, I own a fucking coffee company. Like I'm the first person to say like, hey, coffee is awesome. However, like, if you drink it late in the day, it's going to affect your sleep, which then you're going to feel like dog shit the next day. And like, I don't want to create this cycle. my goal has always been, because I come from being a trainer, I came from a place of not capital gains, but like health gains. Like I wanted people to actually be healthy. So I didn't analyze data and come up with a product that made sense based off of Google Analytics. I looked at like, what does my consumer need? What does my client need? And I was training some of the best people in the world, like YG the rapper, or Blake Mycoskie, the founder of Tom's, Ray Lewis. Like, don't need to know, everybody knows who that is. Like, these are the people I'm working out with, and they all needed breakfast. And I wrote this small book called Breaking Fast that explains the nutrients that we need in the morning, why we need to be thinking about hydration, why we need minerals and electrolytes in the morning, why we need proteins, why we need fats, and ultimately why we actually, caffeine is a really, from coffee is a really incredible source and of polyphenols, antioxidants, and it's an ergogenic. So it does a lot of benefit. There's a lot of benefits to coffee and a good breakfast.
Right. But I want to hit on a couple points that you made earlier too off the air. So first of all, we have signals that tell our body that it is what scientists call the locomotion period. Locomotion period means you're up, you're moving around.
Yep.
And the locomotion period is triggered by two things: the presence of certain wavelengths of light, known as daylight, right?
That's our central clock.
But then food, eating, consuming actually tells the body that this is daytime. And so and keep in mind, we're going to give people a plan today, hopefully that will catch on. Because if you're a fan of fasting, there's a new way to do it you're going to learn about on today's show. So number one, food is part of the signaling to the body that it's time for everybody to get up and move. The other thing that's very fascinating is that you said earlier that people aren't drinking coffee to wake up. They're drinking coffee to keep from falling back to sleep. There's a nuance there. People are like, oh, Carl, no. There's a big difference, because throughout the day you move. Your body cleaves adenosine triphosphate as a form of energy. The adenosine gathers in the brain and causes sleep pressure. Yep. And sleep pressure goes, oh, it's time to go to sleep. So the reality is that while caffeine is valuable when used properly, the more
it's a tool. It's a tool.
Yes. The more important thing is A, light in the morning, specific wavelengths of light, not artificial light. B, that first meal that tells the body things are happening. And C, activity. If you're devoid of any of these three, you're not going to sleep well, period. End of story.
100%. Right. I mean, you're talking about the biological clocks, right? Like the central and the peripheral. The central is driven by light, peripheral is driven by food. If we're not getting sunlight and food first thing in the morning, nutrients, right, are what's triggering these things. Vitamin D is a nutrient that we're taking from the light. It's not the light, it's a fact. In fact, it's what it's creating inside of us or delivering to us, right? So we are triggering that in X hours we're going to sleep. Well, then people drink caffeine, coffee, and they're like, this is going to keep me awake. And it's like, no, it's actually keeping you from falling asleep because it's blocking that adenosine receptor. And this is why it's actually more important to get a good dose of caffeine first thing in the morning, not like this like little, like a little 60 milligrams. Like, fuck that. You may as well not even take it. Like, you're not actually even going to like block those receptors and do what you want to do. You need like at least like 100, 110, 120 milligrams of caffeine to really block those adenosine receptors. And when paired with a good breakfast that has fats and proteins, that caffeine is going to slowly digest differently, right? It's not going to kick you in the face. It's going to have a longer digestion period, metabolization period. And I ultimately, people that, wake up and they are high performers, they work out in the morning, right? But then they don't eat. They're missing like the second part, right? And that's affecting sleep. Or then you have people who may eat breakfast, but now they're working out late in the day and now they're affecting sleep. There are incredible studies around them and how the later you eat in the day or the later you work out in the day, the less REM you have at night. Right. So it's like, so how did intermittent fasting, 16-8 make any fucking sense? It should be 8-16. Right? Like, because that makes the most sense to be the most conducive.
Actually, and this is what's going to help us today. We're going to come to a plan today for everybody, right? So all the research on intermittent fasting showed a couple things. Number one, it improved weight loss. Well, why did it improve weight loss? Well, number one, because it reduced total calories taken in for the day. There's no magic to that, right? You eat less and you move more and you lose body fat, number one. But anybody that's
done intermittent fasting knows how hard it is to actually consume 2,500 calories in the time that you have.
Right.
So it's like you generally become underfed.
And that's what it's contributing to your weight loss. You're basically eating less. But the other thing that it does do is when the body isn't processing food, it can do all of the important cleanup things like autophagy. And so this is when we see sirtuins rise. This is when we see organelles getting rid of senescent cells. So there is a value to time-restricted feeding, but we've flipped it. We've got it upside down. That's the problem. Because if you really want to do this right, and you don't ignore evolution, and you don't ignore science, the right way to do this is first thing in the morning, step out in the daylight, let that bathe your eyes and your face, eat a meal. If you're going to have your caffeine, have it first thing in the morning so that it's wearing off later in the day. But more importantly, we know from research that 12 hours is adequate to produce all the other benefits of fasting, of time-restricted feeding. So just stop eating at 6 p.m. Make sure you're done chewing at 6 p.m. You'll still have the 12 hours that you need to do the things that you want from fasting or time-restricted feeding, but just not at the inappropriate interval of time. Stop stretching out the morning and stop eating later in the evening. What do you think about that?
100%. 100%. I think what's really important right now is that everybody understands that I did intermittent fasting for a very long time the wrong way, right? I fought professionally intermittent fasting, keto. Like I read the book from Lauren Cordier and I read neurogenesis, right? Like I'm good friends with Nora, like through my love for primal diet, primal body, primal mind, and like that whole conversation, right? Of you know, like what kind of state of human we are and what we need. Well, we need certain foods and we need them at certain times of the day because they trigger certain things. I think ultimately you're spot on. Like that's exactly what I call, the RIF diet, right? Like reverse intermittent fasting, right? Like the idea is that we're reversing the idea of what was sold to us to prop up like products and like market space and really cater to the convenience of ultimately like our laziness. Like, oh, I don't have to eat breakfast.
Yes.
And that's
probably what it
fucking
comes down
solved.
to. Yeah, because
solved. Like I don't have to eat breakfast anymore.
Because the big problem amongst most of us is we don't plan our meals. And so it's so much easier. You'll hear people say, oh, well, intermittent fasting is so convenient. Yeah, it's convenient because you're skipping having to do anything to think about food. However, it doesn't mean it's the best way to go. So the other thing that I want to talk about is training fasted. So then you will have the argument from people, well, training fasted is good. That has been disproven by science. Both Dr. Brad Schoenfeld out of State University of New York came on my show probably 3 or 4 years ago after publishing a study that showed that when calories were corrected for, that doing fasted cardio elicited no greater fat loss than doing cardio after a meal. And so when you account for calories and you go, well, why am I doing fasted cardio if it's not doing me any good?
Yeah. Well, I would even argue to say that fasted cardio would probably increase cortisol, right? So, because, people are like, oh, I love that zone feeling I get when I'm fasted. And it's like, that's actually a state of you being like, I don't want to die. and you're in distress, which is why you're hyper focused, because that would be the thing you would use to go into like a hunt, fight or flight kill mechanism, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I think that when you look at intermittent fasting and you look at fasted cardio, I read that with Brad. Actually, I originally heard it on your show, and it was also published in one of his books. And I think who also has really talked about intermittent fasting, and not just not losing weight, but losing muscle, was Dr. John Berardi.
Right.
He did an incredible study, very thorough. I think he's probably one of the most thorough, practitioners, because he's like really walk the walk when it comes to like bodybuilding and right. And he's the founder of Precision Nutrition, one of the cornerstones of nutrition, I think, nutritional education. And his study on intermittent fasting, he lost like 10 pounds of like lean muscle mass. Right. Well, it's like there was a lot of things that you could kind of jump around and point back to. But I think that if you're intermittent fasting and you're working out in the morning, like the most successful people do, and the people that get shit done because they know once their day starts, they're not going to be able to get back in the gym early. Well, like you're talking about not only not working out fasted, but you're talking about not refeeding. Right. You're talking about like now like going like hours and hours. And I know like people can argue like, oh, well, like protein, you're going to need it for like next 72 hours for muscle repair and stuff. Like, yeah, well, like what about like glucose and like, and protein and how all that can help you with muscle repair and ultimately like make you also feel better, like recover, because like we don't just get better tearing ourselves down, we get better building ourselves up, which is like how it then all falls right back to like how that it then in fact like affects your sleep negatively. And
then the discussion, I want to put this up from Mark DeCorso. He says training fasted mentally has been a game changer. And we're going to talk about that. Why? I want to hit on this again. John Kiefer, who came on my show, tapped into this with carb backloading. Actually, not really fasted, but 0 carbs all day. Then start the carbs halfway through the workout. I haven't eaten carbs in the first half of the day in years. This is a mistake, believe it or not. And he came on my show and talked about this, and then he changed his position on it later on. So eating carbs late in the evening will make you insulin resistant over time. It absolutely will. This has been shown. And eating carbs close to bed, which was one of the things he proposed, have all those carbs at night. He's leveraging a metabolic anomaly by telling people, oh, just eat your carbs at night. That's all you need to do. Those people have come to me and said, when I eat my carbs at night, I sleep horrible. Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. Because it's jacking up.
Also had some wicked dreams.
Yeah, it's I get the mental part of what you're feeling. That euphoric feeling is ketones, and what you just said is true. In fact, Joel Green and I did a very, very good show showing that people who are into keto and fasting, it actually changes the germline of both the egg and the sperm, and it actually has the potential to create a baby ill-equipped for a world of abundance, because the body thinks it's starving. It produces ketones to make you forget how horrible you feel and go into the woods and hunt all you can. This is really what that euphoric feeling is. The reality is that while that may be a great novelty, oh, this is so cool, man, I feel so, and by the way, vegans feel this too because of over accumulation of copper in the brain. But while this is a great novelty, like, wow, I feel so good, it's really like, it's like breaking the glass and pulling the handle on the fire alarm for your body. It's not really good for you to do that all the time, because the body thinks that it is starving. And proof of this is, show me anybody who does keto, who does intermittent fasting, who has paper thin skin like a bodybuilder, who eats his first meal at 4 or 5 in the morning to go train at the gym and eats 6 other meals a day. And don't say it's drugs, because it has nothing to do with clenbuterol. You can't get ripped and lean unless your body thinks it lives in a world of unrestricted abundance of food. And we used to call this the fed state. Back 20 years ago, when we were doing talking about getting ripped, all the bodybuilders know, if you're in a fed state, the body lets go of fat. It says, oh, we don't need it. We get meals all the time.
Totally. 100%. I mean, I've walked the bodybuilding path before. Like without a doubt, anybody that comes to me and asks me for advice, I go, well, do you have 30 grams of protein and a bowl of oatmeal when you wake up in the morning? And they're like, no, I fast. I'm like, do that and then see what happens.
Right.
They do that and they lose like inches on their waist. Right. And I think that, bodybuilders, they were the first biohackers.
They were.
Like these guys, like they figured shit out based off of intuitive practice and calculated
result.
Right, results. But they were like calculated. They would adjust things like in these micrometers, like, oh, like, hey, let's do that delt raise with your arm just a little with the thumb turned down. Let's use like these like biomechanics, nutritional mechanics to what they figured out without all the fancy fucking computers and shit that we wear on our wrists now and like whatever they figured out. And I don't know, you'll know who did this, but they did a study. I may have been John Berardi actually, where it was like the difference between 4 meals and 6 meals. And they showed like empirically, like that 5-6 meal was like significantly better in lean body composition based off of total calories. So it was like, so I write about this in the book, Breaking Fast. I call us we become a protein snacking nation. We don't consume protein in large enough amounts to actually trigger, anabolic, metabolic, results, right? Like we don't get enough leucine or whatever you want to like say is what it does. 12 grams of protein is being registered really as like caloric intake, not, boom, let's build some fucking muscles, right? And I think that when you look at why we need it, stretched out over 5 meals and, 6 meals, it's like, so we get a certain amount of protein per meal, macronutrient. And I believe it was John Berardi, and he showed, and it was a massive difference. It was like 20% kind of difference.
Bill Toko, who is a friend of mine and who does bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilder diets, he set up a diet for me, and I said, can I fast? Can I train? And he says, Carl, I just don't see the results. I have a lot of people who want to train fasted. They want to skip that meal. And here's why. It goes back to evolution. When the body thinks that food is in abundance, it lets go of body fat. When the body thinks that food is scarce, or we get it for a while, then we don't get it, it stores body fat. This is a fact. This is the evolutionary gift of yours. So when you eat 4, 5, 6 meals a day in, and believe me, this takes weeks to program the body. The body goes, we don't need body fat. We've been getting 5, 6 meals a day. We can let go of body fat, and people get shredded. Let me go to a couple more comments and questions here. So Mark says, I have absolutely noticed feeling like crap before bed. I intuitively changed to carbs between 1 and 6. And that's great. And my opinion is stop carbs at 4. So move it up even further. And then he says, touch on balance between being mentally dialed in and energy and eating. The feeling is addictive. Yes, it is addictive. And it's because it's designed to block pain and block your thoughts that, oh my God, we may die.
Well, yeah, you're getting endorphins, right? Like you're getting neurochemical like responses based off of the fact that you're in a state of duress, and like we all kind of wake up like that, right? And those that skip breakfast and just slam coffee and then, their insulin levels spike. They got all sorts of things, that are out of whack. But, if you've ever been like super high before or something and you get that weird, like dialed in feeling, like all of a sudden I need to survive so I don't fall over.
Right.
Right. And it kind of almost makes you a little queasy when it happens because it like snaps you so fast. I think that's like what people are feeling, but they're sustaining it over like a long period of time. And of course it's going to be addicting. So are drugs,
When you're looking for feeling good from your diet, it requires multiple meals a day. But more importantly, one thing I am opposed to is fat starvation. Porter Cottrell told me years ago that he was getting ready for one of his Olympia competitions, and he was, back in the day, those guys cut their fat out because they believed that if you cut fat out, the body used fat. Right. He went into the gym to train legs. He was going to have to squat, and he did he did 10 micrograms of Clen back then. He was not even his anabolic steroid regimen, which he talked about on my show in 2006, was modest compared to what guys are doing today. He said, Carl, I started to train. I did my warm-up set. And all of a sudden I had this urge to cry. And he started crying in the gym. He racked everything. He put everything up and he left. When he got home, he said, I craved olive oil. So he did a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And when the body saw that fat, he said, I snapped right out of it. I felt better. So if you want to feel good from your diet, multiple meals a day, and don't exclude fat. Don't go low fat. Make sure you have adequate amounts of fat because the brain wants fatty acids. It wants
100%.
fat.
Well, and MCTs are a great source. Like when I did my bodybuilding show, my coach was very, he was not like the low fat guy. I had to take a tablespoon of MCT oil with every meal. And I was eating 5 meals a day and I was still getting like 90 grams of, fat a day. From these very digestible oils, versus like always getting your fat from, animal proteins or something, but yeah, that's super fascinating. Cause like when I think about bodybuilders and all the chicken and everything, and then I think about somebody like, who is it, John Meadows and the Mountain Dog diet and how much eggs, how many eggs and fat that guy consumes. And he gets ridiculously shredded. He's, and he's super strong. And what people need to realize is that like saturated fats are like precursors to even like your positive hormones. So it's like you do need those fats. Like they are important. Like food, the FDA is not the NDA, right? They're not the nutritional drug, right? They're the food and drug. Like they're selling food and drugs. Right. Like nutrition is completely fucking different.
Right.
And like
not
when
even
they went
with them. Right.
When they went like low fat and everything was low fat because like cholesterol kills.
And look like, where we are today because of low fat. Look at where we are.
You have a bunch of no testosterone having 50-year-old men that are, they're everything.
And now they're trying to do that to us with red meat, which red meat has got to be a staple of your diet. You have to eat it regularly. Totally. We have to take a break.
Of course.
When we come back, we're going to carry on this discussion. So this is the summary of the first segment. You can still employ time-restricted feeding. Just shift. Have your first meal in the morning. Just stop eating earlier in the day. This will reward you from an evolutionary standpoint because we weren't out looking for food once it was dark. We were out because then we would become food. We could be preyed upon. We were out looking for food as soon as daylight hit us until it started to get dark. And then we got back in our huts and our caves to protect ourselves. So let's start a new trend. Let's start it here at the Superhuman Nation. You can keep calling it intermittent fasting if you want to. Just have your first meal, breakfast, stop eating earlier in the day, and then watch what happens. And we're going to talk more about multiple meals when we come back. By the way, I want to give a real quick plug because Adam has a coffee company, and they're actually going to be a sponsor of ours very shortly. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/strong coffee, we'll talk about his unique coffee formula a little bit later in the show, but check him out. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Stay tuned.
Mind Bullet is a kratom product derived from the coffee family to boost energy and creative juices. Mind Bullet comes in both pill and liquid form for the ultimate pre-workout supplement. When needing a little pick-me-up or to get through the morning fog, Mind Bullet will set your productive course fast. Go to shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet, all one word, today, and save 20%. No subscription required. That's shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet. Get yours today.
Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
By now, you're aware of the cognitive benefits of nootropics. My friends over at Pure Nootropics are giving my listeners 10 to 30% off their already great prices on over 70 high-quality nootropics. Stock up on DHM so you can feel good after your holiday celebration, or try the Superhuman Stack to boost your brain and energize your day. Go to shrnetwork.biz/pure, that's PURE, and start saving today.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom-made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Hey, welcome back. We're talking to Adam von Rothfelder, and we're talking about taking a different look at breakfast and what it really means and what it provides. A couple notes I made while we were talking, I want to go back over. Vitamin D3 should be thought as the daytime hormone, the way we think of melatonin as the nighttime hormone. We would never get sunlight late in the evening. So if you are taking vitamin D3, you should take it in the morning, and you should take it with fat so that the lymphatic system can absorb it and you'll get more of it inside of you. The other thing is, we did a show a while back that looked at, it was a study that showed that that overtraining is a result not of training too much, but eating too little to complement the training. So if you feel like you're burnt out from your training and overtraining, and you're thinking, I got to back off, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is maybe you need to eat more or more frequently. And to come full circle to something that you said earlier, Adam, Ron Penna, when he was over at Quest, he developed a concept that is very, very good. And it was that when you look at satiety and overeating in general, the body has a quota of protein it wants. So if you're eating a product like beans, people say, oh, beans are a great source of protein. No, they're not. They're 34 to 42 grams of carbohydrate per serving and 6 grams of protein. If I had a stack of money and on the top there was a $100 bill and the bottom there was a $100 bill, and then throughout it there's singles, would you say that's a stack of hundreds or singles? Of course not. You'd say it's singles, because predominantly singles. So when people look at beans as protein, your body is driven to get its protein. So you have to eat more of high carb, low protein foods to reach satiety. And he showed this. Ron did this a long time ago. So that comes full circle to what you're saying about the body craving the protein, and you don't really feel satisfied until you've gotten enough protein, which fits nicely into the model that bodybuilders have been using for 100 years now. Multiple small meals a day, high in protein, complex carbohydrates, and fat follow. Okay, now that's where we are. We already set the stage for how you should be eating. Breakfast, stop eating earlier in the day. Go ahead, take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, that summarizes like my life and thoughts so well. I mean, I think that when I look at breakfast, I think that it really got thrown under the bus because of the foods that were associated with it, right? And people wouldn't like, if you, I mean, like in Asia though, like they're having pho and having like bone broth and like steak for breakfast, right? Like that's like, talk about like an amazing way to start the day. Carbohydrates, minerals, proteins, like, right? I mean, that makes sense. A bowl of cereal doesn't make any fucking sense, right? Especially when we're trying to develop muscle, right? And I've been very lucky to be friends with some awesome people that like you've had on the show and get to like know some people like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon,
Right.
who worked with like Mark Hyman, and her and I have been nerding out on the conversation of protein for 8 years. Like why protein really is the macronutrient that people aren't talking about as much as they should be when everybody is talking about like lower carb, higher fat, lower fat. And you're like, well, what about higher protein? And studies have come out and shown that we as a society have less muscle mass than like previous, right? Well, and it's not just our fucking muscles that are being affected. Like we just sound like a bunch of meatheads if all we did is sit here and talk about our muscles. Our brain requires protein. It requires amino acids. It's like what balances neurochemistry is found in proteins,
right,
and fats, right? Carbohydrates are, glucose is a great driver of energy, but effectively it's like our body even makes glucose. Like it's
out
like
of proteins and out of fats, it could gluconeogenesis. I know.
Right. Exactly. So you don't need the donut. You don't need those things. And you don't need to associate that to breakfast. And it's not to say you can't have a donut. It's to say that if you're going to have a donut, you should probably have more protein, right? Like you should be thinking about more protein throughout the day if you're craving those kinds of foods throughout the day as well. And I think like the more and more that we ultimately educate ourselves in what it is that we're feeling and how we pair it with our activity, like show me a person who works out really intensely and then like CrossFit, right? Like really just like balls to the walls. If that person is not getting in any glucose, they're going to have some like HP access issues, right? They're going to have some hypothalamus issues to deal with, right? Like they are going at such a high level, aerobic, anaerobic, like all these things. Now, like somebody who's like following like a really like a more steady state cardio, like an endurance runner, they could like, it's like running at a slow pace. They're like slogging, for 50 miles, 25 miles. Like they're more adapt to like the idea of having just, more fats and lower carbs.
Right.
Right. So it's like we all have to think about what is right for our activity type. But ultimately, it does come down to what we have seen in science, which is breakfast works. 5 meals, 6 meals a day, it works. You want to get strong, you want muscles. Like here, you have two negotiables: be fatter or have more muscle, right? Which diet supports more muscle? Which diet supports more fat?
The traditional bodybuilding diet. In fact, Bill Tocco came on my show and we talked about embracing the bodybuilding diet. The reality is that if anybody has ever read any of Randy Roach's Muscle, Smoke, and Mirrors, you know that one of the greatest gifts from the fathers of physical culture wasn't just physical culture. It was nutrition that supported a lean, muscular body. And these guys were eating 5 and 6 meals a day. Vince Gironda, all of them. I mean, Ron Penner was just on talking about the passing of his father-in-law, Chet Yorton. Chet ate like that into his 70s. He still looked like a bodybuilder. He was super lean. Why? Because he ate lower carbs, high protein, multiple meals a day. So we have a couple. Let's answer a couple questions here real quick. Faith Fitness Guy says, what are your thoughts on the concept that ancestral and cultural waking times has rousing and gathering food taking time before the first meal? And he says, I am a breakfast enthusiast, by the way. I have an opinion about this. I do. You want to go first and give your opinion about the idea that getting up in the morning and doing work before actually eating is the right way to go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they hunted every meal fresh. I mean, they had ways of smoking and curing meats.
And they had berries and nuts. We know
Yeah.
this. They kept berries and nuts because they had to eat.
We were actually more foragers and scavengers than we were hunters, right? Like, so we would have berries and nuts, and we would find like a dead carcass from like a lion's morning, like 6 a.m. feed at like 7 a.m. and pick like the bones off of it or like the meat off the, like, and then like take the leather from the hide, like that was more actually who we were than like, oh, let's go out and fucking hunt some shit. It's like, that didn't really, happen as much as we think it did. It was more of like a ceremonial thing.
And let's talk about this. Let's go back and talk about the fed state that we know allows you to get leaner and leaner. What we did and what we wanted to do or should have done are very, very different. So if you woke up in the morning on the savannah hungry and you didn't have berries or some dry, because don't forget, I eat biltong. Do you know what biltong is?
Oh, I love biltong. It's way better than beef jerky for anybody who doesn't know what it is.
I have bags of biltong here. You know why? Biltong is cured by hanging the meat in the sun. So we knew how to do that thousands of years ago. That
doesn't damage the nutrients too, which is huge.
Right. So the reality is that we have always wanted to eat upon rising. That is why the word breakfast has been in our vernacular for thousands of years. We knew that we were fasted. Nighttime came, we were done eating. Morning came, we were hungry, and we broke our fast. Otherwise, the word wouldn't even be part of the vernacular. I mean, it just it stands to reason. So,
well, and it's like, look out your window at 4:30 p.m. Like right now, this time of year, it's dark out. It's getting dark out. Like, right? Yes. Like, so no, you weren't eating at 7 p.m. with a candlelight dinner and a bottle of, Pinot Noir and a fucking steak. So it's like that thought process like takes you further away from evolution. And like, we don't actually even have to theorize. Like, we know what they were doing based off of science and what our body literally does with food and sunlight in the morning, right? Like, we don't have to theorize around it. It's a great conversation, but it's also like talking about the Matrix and every other kind of theoretical sci-fi kind of concept, right?
Right. So again, I'm going to take a break here, but I want to summarize where we are right now. So here's where we are right now. Keep doing your time-restricted feeding. However, have your first meal in the morning to help trigger the body's timing to know that it's daytime, along with light, and stop eating earlier in the day. I predict if you do that, and you combine that with multiple meals a day, it's easy to eat 5 meals a day. You have your first meal, you have lunch, you have your dinner, and you can have 2 small snacks in between that, and you're done by sundown eating to really take this to a more ancestral level. And watch what happens to your body, and watch what happens to your sleep, and watch what happens to how you feel. I predict that this is the right way we should be doing, if you want to call it intermittent fasting. Not missing that first meal, but moving that last meal up earlier. That's what I want people to agree with.
If I could add one thing, just to what you're saying is that, and for those that are like hearing this and they're like, I want to do that, you refer to it as the locomotive state in which we're in. And I've always thought of like the locomotive state as like an analogy to like a train, where it's like a small amount of coal on the fire in the beginning is a great way to start, this train to heat up, right? This actual locomotive. And if we just take a small amount, like a liquid-based protein, something easy to digest, that's like a great way to get in that first meal.
Yes.
Because it's easy on your digestion too. And you can eat like 2 hours after that, 3 hours after that, and it'll be like the best breakfast you ever had, because you actually had time to get your brain going and moving and make the right decisions. And then you crack 2 eggs open and you're like, boom, like you got, your next meal, whatever it is.
Make your protein shake with raw eggs. I've been eating raw eggs for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've gotten sick from them. The choline is fantastic. The cholesterol is undenatured and unoxidized from heating it. I mean, people have been eating raw eggs for thousands of years.
6 of them in a glass with like a little shot of orange juice, all just kind of mixed up. I So Jay Schroeder, that mad scientist trainer out of Arizona that trained Adam Archuleta for the NFL Combine back in the day. He got him real popular on the machine called an ARP wave, which is using like electro frequency to stimulate muscles and do so. He had me drinking 6 eggs raw in the morning, a little spot of orange juice, stir it up, slam it, and then I would drink chocolate milk from like then through my workout for the next 2 hours, like a quarter gallon of chocolate milk, right? And like that is literally what he had me drinking. And I'm like, am I not going to get sick from this? And I was shredded. I mean, the amount of protein and carbs around like training like an MMA fighter, I was just like, wow, this is insane. How do I look at this and feel like this?
Because you were fueling your activity. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. And then later in the show, at the top of the hour, we're going to talk about an Amazonian tea that can actually help you grow more brain neurons. This is really interesting. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. TaylorMade Health is focused on making sure you're able to perform and look your best. They are a leader in game-changing supplements and cosmetic products. Whether you want to increase strength, expedite recovery, facilitate soft tissue repair, or reduce deep wrinkles, TaylorMade Health has you covered. TaylorMade Health is also the home to Dr. Seed's products such as BPC, BPC Plus, and the Chill Pill. All of my listeners can now get 20% off their first order with code TRY20. That's TRY20. This code can even be used on subscription orders. Visit shrnetwork.biz/try20 today and use code TRY20 for 20% off your first order. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, said that all disease begins in your gut. That's why it's so important to protect yourself with boosted immune system. If you drink coffee, tea, smoothies, or really any beverage in the morning, and you're looking for a tasty way to start your day and defend yourself against harmful bacteria, then I have just the thing for you to try. It's called the Ultimate Immunity Protection Stack, and it was put together by my friends over at Bioptimizers. Their immunity stack has 3 products which contain over 18 natural herbs and probiotic blends formulated to fight and eliminate bad bacteria like E. coli, salmonella, gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, and repair compromised gut lining. It also includes psychobiotics, which help increase serotonin and happy chemicals to naturally elevate your mood, performance, and cognitive function with no side effects or dependencies. It's a great addition to your morning routine, and it tastes amazing. Just stir it into any beverage, sip, and enjoy. It's the ultimate way to boost your immune system right before the holiday season. Go to shrnetwork.biz/protect and use code SHR10 and save an extra 10% off on the. You won't find this deal or stack anywhere else. For fast shipping and the best deal, go to shrnetwork.biz/protect today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it. Proper hydration can lead to improved endurance, performance, and recovery. When we sweat, we lose valuable electrolytes that must be replaced. That's why Element created a zero-sugar, science-backed ratio of electrolytes that you can add to your water. It comes in 3 flavors. Sample them all risk-free with the Element Variety Pack. Carl's favorite is raspberry. Free shipping on all U.S. orders. Go to shrnetwork.biz/LMNT and get yours today.
I love beef. And if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender, with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 25% off all beef and free shipping on orders of $100 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to Piedmontese.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again.
When When craving a snack, reach for Select Savory Snack Sugar-Free Biltong, the healthy alternative to sugar-laden beef jerky. They use a fattier cut of beef, making it more tender and flavorful. For mealtime, choose from their 63 seasonings, which are sugar and additive-free. From chipotle rub to savory pumpkin spice, you'll find an option to suit your palate. Go to shrnetwork.biz/SSS today. Use code SHR15 to save 15% on any meat snack or seasoning. Savor the flavor today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back. So I want to switch the topics because I think we've gotten the message across of what we're trying to say. And
Breakfast good.
Yeah, breakfast good. Breakfast is back in
Breakfast
style. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's important, not just because of what you're eating, but because of how that triggers the circadian rhythm. You'll sleep better and blah, blah, blah. And you just start eating less in the evening. End your meal short earlier in the day. I want to talk about your coffee because it's not just coffee, is it?
No. Actually, I actually have a little sample box right here. It's
Okay.
way more than coffee. Yeah. I think it really began with looking at like what we do need in the morning, and with the belief that I believe that breakfast is essential. I really wanted to think about what in breakfast is, what nutrients are essential for breakfast, right? And when I looked at it, I looked at the bigger picture of like why we're also skipping breakfast. It's usually a time thing, right? It's a convenience factor. It's a lack of knowledge. It's a compounding effect. And I wanted to make a product that just simply answered the biggest question, which is what should I have for breakfast? And I created the first nutritional full body latte. And what we have 3 flavors now, and it all started with the first one, which is our sweet one. But it only has 2 grams of coconut palm sugar and monk fruit. It's grass-fed, 15 grams of grass-fed collagen, 5 grams of C8, C10 MCT oil. And then there's some really incredible nootropics and, basically nutraceuticals like Neurofactor, which has been clinically shown to increase BDNF by 143%. And, by getting that like cognitive kick in the pants, like first thing in the morning, you're going to feel better. You're going to make better decisions. You're just going to feel sharper first thing in the morning. That with 150 milligrams of L-theanine and the MCT oil and the caffeine really just elicits that feeling that you almost get in a way when you're fasted. But it's because the nootropics are doing what they're doing, and nutritionally, your brain and body are being taken care of. As 15 grams of collagen has now been shown in a study, and I don't know if you've seen this, but Dr. Mike T. Nelson did a breakdown of this study.
Yeah.
So he did an incredible breakdown of this study on why 15 grams of collagen was the essential amount of collagen found, just as they've found the essential amount of whey protein we should have based off of leucine content and everything.
Yeah, protein synthetic response and leucine. Right, exactly.
Yeah, so now they have the collagen protein synthetic response, and it's 15 grams. And when taken 60 minutes before a workout, it has shown incredible production in collagen fibril size and development. And so we took all the ingredients that you need to not just have the proteins, the fats, but the cognitive and focused energy that you deserve from a cup of coffee, all in one cup of coffee, that also is not aiding in being is aiding in hydration. So we have coconut water extract, hyaluronic acid, and Himalayan sea salt to give you a really nice hydration to your coffee, as 76% of all Americans are dehydrated, right? So it's like if 86% of us are grabbing a cup of coffee, well, why am I the first person that's talking about coffee should have like a hydrating component behind it? Or, the idea of like us putting enough L-theanine and L-tryptophan.
And the L-theanine is good because it actually mitigates the overexcitability of caffeine.
Totally. By increasing serotonin. Right. By increasing serotonin, right? Same with the L-tryptophan. We have a blend of L-tryptophan and L-theanine, as they're both serotonin precursors. The closest feeling that I can relate it to without, it's not a claim that it's like Adderall, but it feels in the fact of like how you elevate, but it's controlled elevation and it's not like erratic. It's L-theanine and L-tryptophan are the chaperones to caffeine.
Yeah, because caffeine increases dopamine, and when dopamine becomes too high, you feel anxious, and serotonin kind of buffers that feeling. So you have the precursor to serotonin. So let me ask you a question. People should drink this with their breakfast, you're saying?
Oh, 100%. So because yes, 100%. I'm not saying this is your breakfast. I'm saying this is a side cart to your breakfast. So
complimentary.
It's complimentary. The way I saw it, and we actually have an oatmeal coming out. The cat's out of the bag. We got an oatmeal coming out. Before we skip into that, we also have a black coffee that has all those same, the L-theanine, the neurofactor, and ashwagandha that I kind of call the perfect second cup of coffee. And this doesn't have the collagen, so it's vegan, it's MCT. Not that I'm a vegan proponent. I really
but but they drink coffee.
Exactly, they drink coffee. But so yes, you should have breakfast, right? You should be eating your food. I think what the benefits you get from collagen and from MCT oil and the nootropics and the nutraceuticals and the minerals you're getting all in strong coffee are a great complement to like a big bowl of oatmeal and maybe some eggs, right? So it's like, or like, a perfect bar, even like, hey, like perfect bars aren't crazy. They're like 15 grams of protein, like 25 grams of carbohydrates. It's oatmeal and honey. If you're somebody who works out in the morning, you're still getting between the coffee and that bar, you're getting almost 30 grams of protein. And so it's like, it's really about a macronutrient balance and giving somebody the instant nutrition that they need. And I don't just say it's instant in the fact of like that you just put it in hot water cold and it's instant, but it's also like, show me a fat that absorbs faster than MCT oil, or show me a collagen that absorbs faster, a protein that absorbs faster than a hydroslate, right? Like in the sense of like what we're generally consuming. So it's really like instant, like boom. Like my wife says, I don't know what it is, but I'll have a half a cup of this down, a quarter cup of this down, and I already feel like I'm a person that I am like throughout the rest of the day. Versus like you have to like get to a whole cup of coffee and let it sink in for 25 minutes before you feel anything. Right. So the
website is shrnetwork.biz/strong coffee if you want to visit and check out. I want to talk about coffee for a second longer because I'm Italian, my grandmother made coffee it's called a maganette. It was a coffee pot that you filled up one end with grinds and the other end you filled up with water and you turned it over and it bubbled up and and that was very, very dark liqueur, almost like an espresso. Maybe it was an espresso. We called it demi-tasse. I don't know where that word came from, but I'm accustomed to drinking very strong coffee mixed with cream, heavy cream. That's how we drank it when my parents, my grandparents. And when you look at Cuban coffee and you look at other coffees from other Latin countries like Italy, like Spain, and so on, the coffee is the liqueur, but it's always buffered by like even in Mexico, they use sweetened condensed milk. When we were in Mexico, Elise and I, they would literally take a spoonful.
Which is delicious.
I know. And then you go to Italy and you have to ask for cafe Americano because they look at us like, you idiots, you don't know how to drink coffee. They take a couple of shots of espresso, they put some hot water in it, they hand it to you here. Really good coffee had nutrition in it. It had fats. It had, and let's not forget, butyric acid was found in butter, and cream has the fat. What do I want to call it? The fat. I can't think of the word right now, but it's got cream has butyric acid in it, so it leads to the
CLA conjugated.
No, yeah. the fat membrane. The fat membrane.
Got it.
Is in there, and so, but it's lost when they homogenize cream, which we do here in the United States. So my point is, coffee was never just coffee. It was there was a vehicle in there that also gave you some form of nutrition, whether it was a little bit of protein and a lot of fat, That is how coffee has always been. And I really think that is why so many people in the United States have trouble drinking coffee, because it's just that raw, gritty brown water.
Oh yeah. Well, it's, I mean, to kind of go off on a coffee tangent, I mean, I think that what, you see in coffee is the same thing you see in fashion. It's like more exotic sources and expensive bags somehow make the coffee better.
Right.
Right. Where it's like really like a single source Arabica, whether it's growing in Sumatra, Ethiopia, or like whatever the fuck it is. It's like, it's going to be like, if we're talking about like bacteria and we're talking about polyphenols and we're talking about ergogenic effects and we're talking about like, yeah, maybe the taste can differ a little bit because of the soil or like what they roast it with a lot of the times is really what changes the flavors. They put like different woods or something, to like give it cherry notes or, and I think that ultimately what we need to look at is like coffee is a tool. It's a shuttle, right? And what is really sad, you mentioned the positive benefits about coffee, but like, let's not forget about the coffee plant, right? The coffee plant and the coffee berry in which the coffee bean comes from, also known as Cascara sagata, is the most powerful polyphenol source on the planet, right? And what polyphenols do for your brain is the reason we don't have a lot of polyphenols in our food because we don't eat a bright spectrum of foods constantly, right? Where it's like somewhere present in India, they're eating bright yellow, everything, greens, reds. We're eating 80% of our vegetables that come from the mustard seed. So it's a very one-dimensional nutritional conversation of like the array of polyphenols that we are getting. So if you reintroduce the coffee berry, Cascara sagata, to the coffee bean, now you have a polyphenol powerhouse, right? You have something, and that's why our coffee, we combined, we stopped throwing away 50% of the coffee plant. We said, we're going to keep that berry. We're going to take that bean. We're going to grind it up. We're going to make it instant. And we're going to make a coffee that increases your BDNF by 143%. And BDNF is directly associated to neurodegenerative diseases, right? Like learning, cognitive ability. If you have low BDNF, you have a higher likelihood of neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, like any of those things. So you want your BDNF to be up, right? Like, so like, it's more than just coffee. And you're right, it should be paired. So like what you're talking about is like a heavy cream with like a bold coffee. That's Daybreaker, right? That's Daybreaker.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, you put this in hot water, 15 grams of collagen and 5 grams of MCT oil with that coconut water extract creates a super milky texture. It has no coconut flavor. I actually put cacao in here to give it a little extra kind of like bitter bump. There's the Himalayan sea salt. So the salt you would get from like the butter is in there. I just didn't put butter in it because butter can like turn bad faster.
Yeah,
it can clump different weird things. MCT I think is a better source of fat just in the sense of like absorption, and how it works. I love butter though, but I really dig MCT oil, and that was Daybreaker for me. Somebody who likes like a sweet latte or like a sweet cream inside of a coffee, that's what the red one is, right? That's morning fix. And then it's like, hey, I don't drink coffee, but I like all these benefits you're talking about. Well, that's why we came out with a matcha latte, right? So it's like, fine, you don't want coffee. I get it. You don't want the acid. Well, guess what? Our coffee is actually 76% lower in acid than conventional roasted coffee because we do low temperature cold brew spray dried coffee, right? So our coffee is cold brewed, then spray dried in low temperature heat and turned into coffee crystals that are organic. And
it's instantized. It's instantized. All right, look, the website is shrnetwork.biz/strong coffee. Check it out. Show them some love. They will be a sponsor. You'll start hearing commercials very shortly. It's been great having you on the show. This has been
Thank you so much.
I hope that we change some people's opinions on the right way to do intermittent fasting. Let's see if we get some messages back. All right, look,
I have a couple of blogs on the website. So when they go and check out Strong Coffee, I have some blogs on the website that actually talk about reverse intermittent fasting and why breakfast is going to help you sleep better. So if they want to kind of read a little bit more of like, we didn't talk about Zeitburgers, and like how like
you're gonna be back on. You're gonna be back.
Totally
on.
Awesome.
All right, look, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Professor José Morales. I think it's Garcia. I may be wrong. I'm going to get his name right before we have him on to talk about an Amazonian tea. This fits nicely in this discussion, very, very nicely into this discussion that actually may help build new neurons. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon.
When craving a snack, reach for Select Savory Snack Sugar-Free Biltong, the healthy alternative to sugar-laden beef jerky. They use a fattier cut of beef, making it more tender and flavorful. For mealtime, choose from their 63 seasonings, which are sugar and additive-free. From chipotle rub to savory pumpkin spice, you'll find an option to suit your palate. Go to shrnetwork.biz/SSS today. Use code SHR15 to save 15% on any meat snack or seasoning. Savor the flavor today.
Everybody wants to feel better, be healthier, and happier. If you don't sweat profusely on a regular basis, you won't feel as good as you could. Studies have shown the power of infrared sauna. Infrared penetrates 1 to 2 inches into the body. It helps those with back pain, fibromyalgia, arthritis, depression, and anxiety. Patients get relief from infrared sauna. The Good Health Sauna has been shown to be an exercise mimetic, conveying many of the same benefits as cardio. There are a lot of reasons people buy a Good Health Sauna, but the bottom line is you will be a much happier, healthier person by using the Good Health Sauna every day. You'll crave it, you'll love it, and it will be the best purchase you have ever made. Good Health Saunas provide commercial-grade saunas for in-home and commercial use, backed by the best lifetime warranty in the industry. Unmatched customer service and the best financing makes owning one easy and will fit any budget. Go to goodhealthsauna.com/superhumanradio to learn more and save 25% off.
Mind Bullet is a kratom product derived from the coffee family to boost energy and creative juices. Mind Bullet comes in both pill and liquid form for the ultimate pre-workout supplement. When needing a little pick-me-up or to get through the morning fog, Mind Bullet will set your productive course fast. Go to shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet, all one word, today, and save 20%. No subscription required. That's shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet. Get yours today. New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. We have the wrong name on today's show. I apologize for that. So I have a little banner ad I'm going to put up with the correct guest name. And that's Professor José Ángel Morales-Garcia. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Hello, good. Thank you for your invitation.
Yes, of course. So your group just published a fascinating study. And the title of the study was an Amazonian tea that stimulates the formation of new brain neurons.
Yeah.
First of all, why this study? What information is out there already that you felt that you needed to examine this research?
Well, to begin with, we have some information coming from people who usually drink tea. And in several studies in hospital, they have proved that these people who drink ayahuasca, who drink the tea, has better life in relationship with disorder, with the psychiatric disorder. So Many times, depression and the treatment for depression is related to what we call neurogenesis. That means the formation of new neurons. This is why we thought, okay, if people who say that have drink ayahuasca said that the depression is better for them, maybe because this improvement maybe is because we have neurogenic processes here. This is why we started to study the ayahuasca in the lab with animals and in vitro.
Okay, so I want to distinguish a couple things. So we hear a lot about ayahuasca, and from people who will go to shaman type organizations, and they will be given very, very large doses of ayahuasca that actually cause nausea, vomiting, but then when the hallucinogenic kicks in, then they start to experience the changes in their view and how their brain works. So
hallucinations, yeah, right.
Yeah, but you're not promoting that large dose. You're promoting a tea that is made from the same plant. So we're talking about a smaller dose, right?
In fact, it's the same. The tea that the people use in these rituals compound has a compound called dimethyltryptamine. It's what we call DMT. So what we study in the lab is the DMT, just the DMT, but in a low concentration. We use 10 micromolar. This is practically nothing. So with these low doses of DMT, we have this great effect on generation of new neurons.
So now this fits nicely. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we started talking about microdose LSD. That's become a trend here now. Lots of people are microdosing LSD and LSD precursors like 1P-LSD and others. And the College of London was embarking on a study to use microdosed LSD to treat major depressive disorder, and the early results was very, very promising. So we know about microdosing LSD. What you're suggesting is microdosing a botanical hallucinogen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So does that botanical hallucinogen have to be standardized? Because let's face it, like wine, growing seasons, weather, soil, all plays a role in the concentration of the target, in this case DMT, in the plant, right?
Yeah, in that case, the key is the dose, as you have said. So we have checked that a very low dose can have very beneficial effects in that case in this neurogenesis. And this is really interesting what you are talking about, because this is one of the main topic in scientific research now, when many people are studying that those compounds that usually are known as harmful, like the cocaine or LSD, etc., we can use them in for therapy in very low dose. So yes, this has a very beneficial effect.
Now, this concept has been around for thousands of years. In fact, the Native Americans in the United States were known to follow the buffalo, and on the buffalo poop, on the feces, small mushrooms would grow. And these mushrooms were hallucinogens. And we know that the Native Americans would gather these mushrooms, dry them, and keep them. And when they went on their vision quests, when they were looking for answers to questions about life, they would then consume these mushrooms, and they would hallucinate. And so I guess, and I did a lot of LSD in high school. I talk about it on the show all the time. I did a lot of LSD. And later in life, I was living in Las Vegas, and I went to a lecture by Dr. Timothy Leary. And no one showed up for this lecture except maybe 10, 12 people. So I had an opportunity to talk to him at length, one-on-one. And what we realize now is that these hallucinogens not only stimulate neurogenesis, but they stimulate a type of neurogenesis that seems to go around the corpus callosum, so that the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of the brain can communicate without going through the clearinghouse, which leads to original thought and other phenomenon. I can't think of the word synesthesia, maybe, where you think you can smell colors and all that sort of stuff. So this is very fascinating, because what we're learning is it may actually have the ability to not only rebuild neurons, but rebuild neurons in a specific architecture that progresses the human brain. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. For us, it's very important that this discovering about the new generation of nervous cells. But it is well known, because there are many studies that prove that the ayahuasca consumed provokes a reorganization of the brain.
Right.
It's changed the information inside the brain, and this is very positive in order to control some illness like depression, for example, like cocaine addiction. So people who has suffer from the depression says that when they have drink ayahuasca tea, we have improved this feeling, this negative feeling, and we know now, because of different studies, that this is because the ayahuasca produce a reorganization of some important nucleus. One of them you have till now about the accumbens, the callosum corpus, that all these cerebral structures that are responsible for behavior, for example. And so now we know that the ayahuasca can be really benefit in this kind of alterations.
So is ayahuasca tea available in grocery stores?
No. I don't know in the United States. In Europe, it is forbidden. So we can use it. We cannot use it just because of scientific purpose. So we cannot in Europe. We cannot have the tea, and we cannot have the plant. Just the DMT if you have it in the laboratory for your studies.
Okay. So let's discuss the study. So how was your study designed?
Well, the first thing to do is to check your hypothesis in vitro. That means with cells. This is why we work with neural stem cells derived from animals, from mice. So
okay.
we isolate the neural stem cells, and we study the effect of the DMT. So these neural stem cells are going to produce three kinds of cells: the neurons, the astrocytes that are very important in the homeostasis of the brain, and the oligodendrocytes, responsible for the production of myelin in our nerves. So we were interested in neurons. What we saw, first of all, in vitro, was that this compound was able to stimulate the proliferation, the division of the neural stem cells. So the neural stem cells have to divide many times, and then form the different cells, the oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, or neurons. This is what we prove in vitro with neural stem cells isolated from mice. Then, when we saw that we have a really good effect on neurogenesis, on the production of new neurons, we went to the animal model. In the animal model, we injected DMT intraperitoneally to the animals. We wait for three weeks because we have to wait, first of all, to the neural stem cells start to divide, then to move, then to reach the final destination, and then to become a neuron. So after 3 weeks, we make some behavioral tests with the animals to prove that these new neurons were really working,
functioning.
So, we're functioning, right. And what we saw is finally we studied the brain of the animals, and we saw that we had really new generation of neurons in certain areas of the brain, and this generation of the new neurons were linked to an improvement in the cognitive task.
Okay, so let's talk about the certain areas of the brain. Does the hallucinogens have very specific areas of the brain that it affects, or will it affect? So we're talking about mostly sensory nerves. What about motor neurons? Parkinson's disease, neuromuscular diseases. Do you see any change in trajectory of neurogenesis in, say, the substantia nigra?
Not yet. This is our next step. All these studies we have performed were under physiological conditions. That means in normal conditions, in normal cells. The next step that we are doing now is studying the neurogenesis in a Parkinson model of the disease. So you have introduced very well. We have to induce the Parkinson in our animals, and then study if they are generating new neurons, but new dopaminergic neurons that are the neurons that die in the Parkinson disease. So this is the research that we are doing just now.
Yeah, that's exciting. Because then you're talking about dementia.
Yeah, for sure.
You're talking about Parkinson's. You're talking about ALS. You're talking about a widespread host of diseases that have no answer whatsoever. I mean, carbidopa and levodopa, they just speed the Parkinson's disease faster and hurt the person even faster because they deteriorate the brain faster. Interesting. So demyelination of the brain is associated with aging. The brain literally starts to shrink. And so obviously this could play a role in remyelination of the brain. Do we know that these compounds like DMT have any peripheral actions? Do we know that they could influence demyelination of peripheral nerves?
The thing is, what we have studied is the formation of new neurons. That's what was our first aim. But we have seen in this study that the DMT can induce also the production of myelin. So you can use these results. You can do this study also for demyelination disorders like sclerosis or whatever. So
or peripheral, just general. Peripheral neuropathies. Everybody's got peripheral neuropathy.
Yeah, for everything. Yeah, for sure.
Wow,
even for the generation of new neurons, what we know in this study, in our models, is that we can stimulate the neural stem cells and we can form new neurons, but we don't know what kind of neurons. And this is very important for the treatment of several disorders, because in Alzheimer, we have that the cholinergic neurons are dying.
Right.
But in Parkinson, we have that the dopaminergic neurons are dying.
Dopaminergic, right, exactly.
In sclerosis, we have that the myelin is disrupted. So we don't know up to now what kind of neuron we can generate. And this is the next step. If we can generate any kind of neurons to treat any kind of neurodegenerative disorder or what.
So many diseases start on a cellular level. And when we talk about cellular disease, when we talk about fixing diseases on a cellular level, the mitochondria becomes the focus of much research. Even in cancer, we know now that the mitochondria switches to anaerobic respiration before the oncogenes change. So we can say that even cancer has its origin in mitochondrial dysfunction of one sort or another. Do we know if these compounds have any direct or indirect effect on mitochondria?
We don't know yet. We have observed some kind of neuroprotection in some animal models, but we don't know specifically the signaling pathway that the DMT are using. So in my hands, I don't know if has any effect on mitochondria.
So now let's go back and talk about the common current use of ayahuasca. So there are people who travel abroad and go to various countries where they have these shaman, and they take a very large dose of ayahuasca, and they hallucinate sometimes for 2 or 3 days continuously, and they get violently ill first. They vomit, they feel terrible, and then once the vomiting and that subsides, they start to enjoy the process. Do we know anything? Do you think there's any value to these larger doses less frequently as opposed to smaller doses more frequently?
Yeah, in my opinion, in my hands, according with our research, is that low doses are more effective.
Yeah.
Even low doses don't need to. I mean, when you there is no toleration. I mean, when you take the DMT at a low dose, you don't need to be increasing the dose anytime. In fact, we have inject to the animals always the same dose during 3 weeks. Just in 3 weeks, we have observed a very, very positive effect on the generation of new neurons. That means that a low dose is enough for have a benefit.
And then how long does that last? So once you reach that point, let's say in 3 weeks, you're giving a low dose every single day, and now you see the trajectory of neurogenesis happening. Right. And if you stop at 3 weeks, will that neurogenesis continue to happen for weeks and months later?
Probably. The fact is, we give this treatment to the animals during the 3 weeks, because 3 weeks is the time that the neurostem cells start
differentiate.
Yeah, differentiate and go to the final destination. This is why we use this time.
But then the animals are sacrificed then in order to look at.
Yeah.
We don't know. It could be going on for 6 months later.
But this is a very interesting question you say, because maybe we can give the treatment for 3 weeks. We haven't thought about this, so thank you very much for the idea. Because one interesting point is to give this treatment maybe for 3 weeks and then stop and wait for 1 month maybe or 2 months maybe, and go inside the brain again to see what's going on. So maybe this is a good point for a future investigation.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So at this point in time, your research could eventually lead to a form of treatment. I know that when I did acid as a young man in high school and even in college, I did very large doses where I hallucinated for 2 or 3 days at a time. And when I microdose more recently, I started microdosing about 4 years ago, here and there, not a lot. And I noticed that, first of all, I tolerate a larger dose. I have friends that say, oh, I do 10, 15 micrograms of LSD. I can do 50 and 60. I don't hallucinate. But what I do notice is the world just looks better. You know, the sunlight hits the building. I never noticed it before. Wow, look at that. That's beautiful. And it's almost like everything becomes new again. Oh, look, you're happy and everything is happy and things look better. That is the effect that I noticed from microdosing. Do we have any evidence in humans that is what the low dose ayahuasca does? It just gives them a better perspective on life.
Yeah, in fact, we have some information from consumers from ayahuasca that has drank the tea only 2 times in life, and only with 2 times they say that they have an improvement in previous pathologies related to the nervous system, like depression. One of the main illnesses studied in this kind of substance is the depression. So just one drink or 2 times drinking the tea, they say that they have a very beneficial an improvement in this depression feeling.
Interesting.
So it's really powerful. The ayahuasca is really powerful. You don't need to drink every day all the time, or to increase the dose every week.
Yeah, the current microdosing protocol is a very low dose of LSD, 20 micrograms every 3rd day. That's what I guess his name was James or Jim Fadiman, who worked with supposedly was the father of this whole LSD microdosing protocol. And so you're right, you don't take it every day, you take it every 3rd day, and quite often the dose is so little, people don't notice anything. Yeah, I don't feel this. Yeah, that's good. They say that's good. That's what we want. But then over time, things start to change. So
yeah, for sure.
Do you see Do you see this becoming more available to the general public at some point in time? If it shows safety and efficacy, everybody could be happier?
I think so, because the good point of this is this kind of tea, this brew, is usually people usually drink in South America. So we have now all the data regarding to side effects. So up to now, we know that it's a potent hallucinogen, and that you can have many problems with the stomach, maybe. So this is something we have to
Okay, so the problem with the stomach, is that long-term or just acute when you drink it?
Yes, acute. It's just the day you are drinking the tea, or maybe 2 days later. So this is something that we can make something to
yeah, you know what?
A solution for them. I mean,
a little weed. That settles it. Do a little ayahuasca, a little weed, and your stomach feels great. And you So another thing that I think you should study, if you can, is the diversity of the microbiome and how it changes. Because we know that there is a close-knit relationship between the microbes in the gut and hormones, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. They change, they influence the diversity of the microbiome. It would be fascinating to see if, because we know that some depressions are driven by chronic inflammation. And we know that inflammation is the army of the immune system. And we know the immune system is in the gut. It would be fascinating to look at the diversity of the microbiome before and then after use of ayahuasca. Do we see these microbes dying and these microbes repopulating? That would be fascinating too, to see what role the microbiome plays in this whole effect.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, my field of study is the Parkinson's disease, and we know now that the microbiome is really linked to the Parkinson's.
The development of it,
because of the nerve we have in the stomach, so the degeneration can travel from the stomach to the brain. Yes. And provoke this dopaminergic deficit. So is really related.
I want to thank you so much for coming on. This is fascinating, and I hope to hear new research from your group so we can have you on again. And I love this stuff. I think that so many people are afraid of LSD, but as you point, the low doses we're talking about are so minuscule that most people don't even feel anything. But if it can make you love life, feel good, what's wrong with that? We have so many people that are self-medicating with alcohol and tobacco that kills them. This could save a lot of lives in the long run. It really could.
Yeah, for sure. Many times microdoses is good for everything. So
yeah.
Please, everybody think about it.
Oh wait, we have a question. Let me see. We have a question from a listener. Let's see what it is. Hold on. Oh, he said, wow, neurogenesis. Nice one on DMT. Yeah. Yep. Lots of things increase BDNF and neurogenesis, but nothing does it as fast as hallucinogenics. It's really fascinating. That whole area of science is really fascinating. Professor, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you to you for your invitation. And if I perform these new experiments of your great idea about, I will put you in the authors of the paper.
Oh, I wish you would do that. That way I have a legacy when I'm gone. Somebody will say, hey, there you go. All right, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.
And so that's it for today. I'm actually desperately looking for a new source. I lost my source for microdosing, so I'm actually in the process of finding a new source. I do believe in it. I think all the acid I did when I was a kid is why I'm as inquisitive as I am. Maybe that's why my head's so big too. Maybe the LSD made my brain grow, and as a result of that, my head had to get bigger, because my head is big. Look at that, huh? You'd think I'd be tired carrying this thing around all day. All right, look, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Hope we change your idea and opinion of dietary interventions using time restricted feeding. Give it a try. I want to hear from you on air at superhumanradio.net. If you start going, okay, I'm going to start eating breakfast and I'm going to stop eating earlier in the day to get my 12 hours of time restricted feeding, do it for a couple weeks and then email me and tell me how you feel. Tell me what you notice. I need research. I need because we're really talking about something that nobody's paying attention to. So maybe if I get enough replies from those of you out in the audience, we'll be able to put our flag in this and say this all started at the Superhuman Nation. So there you go. All right, thank you for being here today, and see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio.